Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Integrated Resources Institute Informational Interview Program, all about jobs. Today we're talking with graphic designer Carmen Carbone Andonian, who's joining us from the city of Kirkland in the state of Washington. We have a lot of people on the line and we welcome your questions. To ask a question, please type your questions into the chat. You can also ask a question in between our questions. Just politely say, "Excuse me, I have a question." The session is being recorded, so for the sake of audio quality, please mute your audio. Interviewing Carmen today, we have coach and high school and college friend, Janet Murr. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Janet.
Thank you, Wendy. And again, welcome, Carmen Carbone Andonian. I'm really glad that you are here. It's good to see you. And I'm glad we're going to be talking about your cool career and job. Let's start by asking you, what is a graphic designer and how is it different than other designers?
Well, a lot of the designers overlap a bit, but graphic designers generally developing visual commercial art that is used to represent businesses. It involves things like logo design, brochures, websites, things that are visually put together to represent their business and market to people.
Thank you.
Oh, maybe I could add to that. So where it's visual and involves color and shape and composition, I think all the design world jobs do that sort of thing. But with graphic design, it's more 2D and has gone into 3D.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So do you work mostly on the computer and on paper as compared to, for example, interior design or product design?
So it depends on the project. And if I'm starting from scratch with a client, I always start with sketching because, and I think sketching is really important because a lot of times when you go straight to the computer, you get locked into ideas and you're not as free and as exploratory. So where a lot of designers are not necessarily good at drawing, just jotting down ideas and words and sort of playing with shapes roughly really is helpful before you commit to something on the computer. A lot of ideas get worked out there and explored.
I think that's really neat. I don't know anyone that actually does any sketching or drawing before they start on the computer. So I think that's probably something unique about you and your business. So what kind of things do you like to design?
Well, I think my favorite thing to design right now is apps that you would, download and the interface of the apps, and that's sometimes called UX, UI design. UX stands for user experience and UI stands for user interface. So it's really you're designing an experience, what the user sees when they first launch the app. What does that home screen look like? What are the navigation tools? How do you direct them through it? So it is graphic, but it's also an experience.
That's something I had not heard before. So it's UX, UI. So it's user experience, what's the
interface?
Interface. So
yeah.
Interesting. I like that.
So the other thing that I really love to do, well, I always love doing logo design because that's really the face of a company. So it's really important. What I love about logo design is that you really have to learn about the personality of a company and how do they want to present themselves. And a lot of times you're also developing a tagline along with it so that it tells the person more about what they do. But what's really fun about it is, logos should be very graphic and very simple. And a lot of times things get, you just want something that they can look at immediately and know who you are and what you do, and sort of give you a hint about who you are as a company.
Is the tagline the same thing as a slogan? And is that something that you think once they get it, it'll last forever and beyond everything they do?
Well, it can be. I mean, so slogans are more of an advertising term, that whereas a tagline is, those two terms are interchangeable depending on who you talk to. There isn't a hard and fast rule, really. But what I would say is that a tagline should give someone more of what, specifically what you do. Because often names of companies don't tell you that. Even like Microsoft, that name initially, nobody knew what that meant. Software was so new that they needed an identifier that says desktop publishing tools, or whatever. So the key with them is to keep them very short so they are rememberable. And yes, it's true, many taglines you'll never forget, because they are so clever and short, and they connect you to the products. That's one way that people really remember, what you do.
Yeah. Okay, so how does design for you solve problems for the businesses you work with?
So it sort of depends on the client and the scenario, but basically what I develop, usually what happens is I'll sit down with a client and we will talk about, we are going to a trade show or something like that, and we don't have anything to show them except the actual product. We want something that they can take with them, or maybe it's a website that they need, that they want to increase their business. And so I sit down, I do a lot of research about who they are and what they do. And then I also sort of just ask a lot of questions, and I record that all in something that I call a creative brief. And it's really everything from, what is the problem that we need to solve, to what are the personality traits of your company, and what is your goal? What is your marketing goal that you want to accomplish? Do you want to have sales increase by a certain amount? Do you want to raise your brand awareness? Do you want more visitors to your website? So we define what it is that that we want to solve, and then I start brainstorming on what media would solve that problem, and what does that look like? Do we want to invite people to an open house? Do we want to do a mailer that lands on people's in people's mailbox that offers them some discount or something like that? So it could be anything, just depends on the scenario.
So at this point, I have a poll. Sorry to interrupt, but I have a poll for our participants, and we'd like to ask a question for you about problem solving.
Good question, Wendy.
That's a great question.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's see what people's answers are. I love these on the spot polls.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of reading on this question, so it's a little slower to get through.
I can go on to my next question while you're getting the answer to the poll. I think you might have answered the next one because it was, why would a company want to hire a graphic designer? And you actually, I think, answered that because it's because they want to solve a problem, or they want to do a launch, or they are going to a trade show, or
Right.
I think you expanded on that already. So, oh, you have your answers. 62%. I like that.
I have something to sort of tag on to that question. And when I get a problem, when somebody comes to me and says, oh, I need a website, I don't know what to put on it, I don't know how to, I need writing, I need photos, I don't know where to start, I don't know how it should look. I don't either when I first start. And the cool thing is that just so if piece by piece you solve it, and it's not like you just know in your head exactly right away what the solution is, but the fun thing is you sort of sort through it piece by piece, and you figure out, okay, these are the visuals that represent my company, how are we going to get them? We're going to hire a photographer, and by taking notes I create enough, I gather enough information, I can start writing and coming up with a really innovative headline or tagline that would capture people's attention. So it is something that you don't know the solution to right away. You kind of have to creatively get to it.
I like that approach and I like that philosophy, because if I was a business owner and I was choosing between 2 or 3 businesses and somebody said, I got exactly what you want, hire me, and then I had you and you were saying, you know what, let's start this discovery process together.
Yeah.
And I really don't even know at this point what you're going to need or want or how I can solve your problem. Then I would definitely hire you, because I would be able to understand that you're the one that's really coming from a place of, I want to be able to tailor make this to you and solve the problem. So I
Well,
like
and you know, I think when people are first learning to be designers, they follow one idea and they go, oh, well, this, you know, I did this design and this is it. But really, a good designer explores so many ideas. And when I present logo concepts to a client, I always show 3 or 4 different directions, and they can be vastly different. There might be a couple that are similar, but what I know is that I can't fall in love with my own ideas, because really the client is the one that has to decide what's right for their business. And if it doesn't feel right to them, and it may be different than what I want. So I've really learned to not fall in love with my ideas and go a bunch of different directions, especially when you've haven't worked with someone before, because it takes time to get to know someone and what they like and what is going to really work for them.
that's a really good point. So tell me what current projects you're working on.
Oh, okay. Well, so I'm working on a social media campaign for a rug store. So what I'm doing is I've created some graphics with headlines, and we're offering people a discount on rug cleaning, and it's not only in social media, but it's on the client's website. So the first thing that happens when you go to the website is there's a landing page that comes up that says, need your rug cleaned, 20% off cleaning, click here. And then they fill out a form, and then that form is something that we can market to them later. We can send other offers to them. But this has been a really successful campaign to do on the website. And so now we're taking it onto social media and trying to get it out there that way. So that's one of the things I'm working on. I'm also working on a campaign for a company called Mid-Mountain Materials, and they do fabrics that are made to insulate like water tanks, and they make materials that mountain climbers climb in to stay dry. And so they're a business to business company. So that's a little different than business to consumer. So they're marketing to other businesses saying, hey, we have this great fabric that protects anything you need insulated from heat or cold. And so I'm developing trade show graphics for them right now, and also a brochure. And actually, they just asked me to get involved on their website. So that's something I'm going to be doing here shortly.
Congratulations. That's pretty diverse. I mean, I like that. And you mentioned something I wanted to go back to. You said a landing page, and then you said you also, when people fill out something for the 20% off, then you can use that. Would that be called a database? And what's a landing page?
So a landing page is just, when you're, we've all experienced it when we're on a website and suddenly something pops up and says, hey, 20% off your next order if you fill out this form. And so it's great for the client because they obviously get their discount. And if they're interested in your product or what you do, you know that they're potential clients for marketing to again. So basically, the landing page is just a visual page that you can click and it'll go away, or you can fill out the information. Okay, and then the nice thing about that is there's something called a drip campaign where, and what that means is once you've captured their email address, you can send them other materials, other online offers. And so for somebody that's, so say if Amazon does that, then you can go back, or they'll be sending you offers until you opt out. So it's a really good way to cross-sell what you have if you sell more than one kind of product.
And that's what's called like a drip campaign. Like if I was getting dripped on, I guess that's not the word, but if somebody was doing a drip campaign, you were doing a drip campaign to me, that would mean that like every 3 days or 4 days, I would be getting something from, if your company was Bed Bath and Beyond, I'd be getting like a newsletter or a coupon or check out our, our new towels. And so that's a drip campaign.
Exactly. But the thing is just you opt into that.
So it's something that I don't get angry because it's something that I opted into. It wouldn't be like spam. Yeah.
And you can opt out at any point.
Yeah. And that goes to my next question already. I think you might have answered a lot of it, which is what tools do you use for design? And I think you answered quite a bit of that, but that's my next question. What tools do you use?
The tools that I use for design are when I'm actually designing something visual that I'm going to use for marketing, are mostly tools like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Sketch, which is used for interface design. And each tool does something different. InDesign, these are all Adobe products. InDesign is more of a page layout, what you'd see, what I'd use if I was creating an ad. Illustrator is something that can create amazing 3D illustrations. And I have examples of that on my website that I could show you. Photoshop is more for editing photos or doing some sort of effect, not always photographic. It's also used for illustration, but they all have their purposes. And then Sketch is more of a tool for doing interface design. So you can design all the screens and you can link them together and see how the user would flow through an app or website. So those are the tools for developing something. The tools for marketing are different. They are things like Instagram and Facebook and Google Ads.
And TikTok?
And TikTok too, yes. I mean, that tends to be less commercial use and more just promoting yourself or your, your skill or something. But there are a lot of people using TikTok now. Yeah.
You said you might have some examples. Anytime you have an example, you can show us if you want to show us something online.
Okay.
But if I'll just keep going until you
Okay.
or unless you have an example.
Okay.
So how do you determine how long it takes to complete a project that you're working on?
Well, usually you set a timeline with your client, and generally, I would say 9 times out of 10, they have a timeline. They have a goal, like a trade show or a launch or a, something that they need to get out and post. So often that's what determines the deadline. And when there isn't one and it's kind of loose, I always set one because what tends to be frustrating is if projects go on and on, there's weeks between times that you're talking, because things fall through the cracks and you kind of forget where you are and the conversations become a little muddy. So it's really good to say, okay, if December 1st is our deadline, let's do a first draft meeting, 2 weeks from now, and I'll have concepts. And we may talk between then if I have questions, and then we'll set another sort of milestone to have buy off by a certain day or revisions done by a certain day. And so you kind of set a timeline that works with the client's schedule.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's see. Here's a good question. I like this. What's one of the biggest challenges of your job?
Oh boy.
Well, I think a lot of people have come to you with an idea that they think is really going to work, and they try to dictate the design instead of having you bring your expertise. And that can be frustrating because so often when you come with a new perspective, it's really helpful if they're open-minded. And sometimes, I was talking about logos before and how I developed a bunch of concepts. And sometimes what happens is I give them what they want. I design one thing that's exactly what they want, but then I design something else that is what I think is a good solution. And I might even do something between. And a lot of times, I'd say more times than not, once they see what I've designed, they're like, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. So it can be frustrating, but it can also be really cool when you come together on it. And a lot of times you both have to compromise a little bit because they may think that, showing a bowling ball is the right thing for their bowling alley, but maybe it's something else that is represents young people and fun if they're trying to get young people into their bowling alley. So yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of when I was in the radio business, and a lot of the people that bought advertising wanted to voice their own commercials on air. So, and they weren't be necessarily a good on-air personality, but they wanted to do their own spots. So we would have them do one, and then our professional DJs do one. So we could kind of end up going with the DJ instead. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that way.
That's true for writing too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times the client will give me, for the homepage of a web page, they'll give me like pages of text that they want to put in their website. And it's like, you're going to lose people if you don't whittle that down to just like 3 really powerful sentences or a paragraph. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take their writing and go, okay, this is what I propose. And I've learned to be a really good writer too, just because visuals and words work so well together. And so I'll present them with something that will be just like a really like strong, compelling paragraph. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see. And I'll say, you know, we can have this text somewhere else on the website, but it's just not what you want them to see on the homepage.
Yeah. So what's your favorite part of the job?
Well, I just love the creative process. And, you know, I see so many people that are in careers that they don't love. And I just love what I do. I love getting the problem or the project and sitting down with my sketchbook and just kind of doodling and drawing and writing down words and researching and looking at ideas and then just sort of step by step developing a plan and a look and it's so much fun. I love it.
I know you're really good at it. You're very, very creative. I've known you a long time, so that's neat that
Yeah.
that you like doing that part and that you're very talented at it. So, all right. The next question I have is,
Oh, pardon me for a second.
oh, sure.
I was going to ask so I read the question, but this isn't about me. I studied about a photographic in high school, and and I did some camera design, and my plan is to sketch some art to put in the museums, and so there's one or two specific questions, which is what does a graphic designer do, and how long have you working for the company?
Well, those are really good questions. And I'll answer the second one first, because I think I want to show you the first question with examples. So I started out of college working for a small fashion store that was owned by Nordstrom's. And so I was doing a lot of garment graphics and hang tags and store signage and things like that that was more related to fashion. And then I went into technology and was working for a small software company. And I did that for about 5 to 7 years. And then I went out on my own and started my own business. But I had to have that experience working for someone else to really be a good enough designer to be on my own. And so I've been doing my own business now for over 20 years. Some of the time I sort of take a little bit of a sabbatical and I do contract work, which means like I might commit for a year to do work for a certain company. And I might do a little bit of freelance stuff on the side, but I've been working for myself for a long time now. So, and then what I'd like to do, if this is a good time, Janet and Wendy, to maybe look at my website and see some examples of what I do. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
That would be great.
Okay, so I think I just need to click on the screen share button, right? No.
Yep.
Yeah. Share screen, and then it'll first have you sort through. There you go.
Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I had this open, now I don't know where. Okay, this is something I'm working on, but I won't get into this because this is something new to me that I'm learning. It's 3D modeling, which is kind of cool. But I am going to take you to my website, and
And your website is carbonidesign.com?
.net.
.net. Okay.
Yes. So I'll just go straight to my portfolio. And this is some of the logo work that I've done. And I've done so many more than this, but you kind of get the sense that I've done a lot of logo work. This was for a company that was a startup company that developed these systems for offloading, for getting rid of an eco-friendly way to get rid of pet waste. This company, Real Radiology, I want to show you what I've done for them, because basically, so they're out of Denver, and they came to me when they sort of were breaking off from another company. And so I developed everything from them from scratch, their logo, their website, their trade show booth. And I show that all in one screen here that I'll show you. This is Digital Farm is a video production company that I still do a lot of work with. So I do a lot of video work as well. And I can show you an example of something that we did together, or some video that I've done, which is also one of my favorite things to do now. Quarterdeck is a waterfront restaurant. Holistics is a technology company. Andina does natural remedies. They grow all the plants that that make a lot of the things like zinc and just natural remedies. So anyway, that gives you a little bit of an idea.
I love this one, the one that says toned. I love that one. Okay, go ahead.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a personal trainer, and I've done quite a bit in the fitness realm. Let's see, let's look at, this is the company that I did a lot of work for. Oh wait, this is a video, so I maybe don't want to show that right now because that's kind of long. So I'm going to go back and
is that your parrot on your shoulder?
No, that's a friend's parrot, but that parrot's so cool, I just had to put him up. Okay, so let's see. Here's some screens that I did for a gaming company that I did a lot of work for a while. So they do, Movie Pong is a game that is available on the web, and well, they're no longer, they don't exist anymore, but it's a game about movies, and where they might show an actor, and then you have choices of which movie they're in, or you might hear a video clip of, or an audio clip of a really famous line from a movie, and you have to pick what movie it's from or what the actor was. And once you do that, you win points that allow you to unlock.
Carmen, we lost you for a minute. Are you still there? Carmen, if you can hear me, you froze. You might have froze. Okay, so I will wait for Carmen to come back. In the meantime, I will talk a little bit about the next question I have for her.
Can we do a poll in the meantime?
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Okay, let's do a poll. And then let's see. This one's going to be, wait, there it is. Getting to know people. All right. So Carmen's been talking a lot about developing relationships and asking questions about what they need. So let's find out your interest level in that. We got a lot of people who love asking about other people's lives and what interests them. That's a great trait in a designer. And sometimes we all get a little shy. There's one person
And
who
I have
says,
to be honest.
well, you know, and I totally agree with that. Sometimes we get a little shy. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to end this poll right now. Majority of you are really your designers at heart. Yeah, look at that, right? All designers at heart. All right. Okay, so while we continue to wait for her to return, you said you had some conversation you need about
My next
that?
question for Carmen was going to be, what would surprise people about your work? And but what I was going to say in the meantime, she mentioned something that really resonated with me, is that what she loves about her work is that she gets to be passionate and get excited about every single client she works with. And I think a big part of that is, my guess would be, is that she gets to work with all different kinds of businesses. And I really like that, because many times, of course, when we go to work in this, world out in our careers, you go to one place with, one job, or you go to, work as a waiter, or work at a company that does, an office building. And I like it. In Carmen's case, particularly, she gets to work with all different categories and all different kinds of businesses. And when she goes in, she gets to be creative and solve their problem. And I like that aspect of what her job is, because I think it's her, and I think it would be a really neat way to approach the world, and I think it'd be really neat to have a job like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Courtney asked a question that, since you went to college with her, you might know the answer, which is, what type of education do you need for graphic design?
You know what? I think I might know the answer to that. Yeah, because Carmen and I were at college together. Hold on one sec.
So
Yeah,
are
I got a text from her, so you can keep talking about what you saw of her education.
Yeah, the Carmen and I, we did go to college together at Washington State University, and we went to high school together. And my degree was in communications, and hers was in, I guess, design, graphic design, and advertising. But you need definitely 4 years to complete graphic design or graphic arts curriculum, but also general education, core studies in graphic design, and electives. But my guess also is that you'd be able to come into this field from a different direction if you didn't have an actual degree in graphic design, because so many different jobs and careers do not require a college education these days. I have been out in the world with quite a few people who are looking for jobs, and you just flat out don't need a college degree. So a lot of ways people can get into the graphic design industry is by doing an internship, or by doing temp work, or by starting in the mailroom, or by just calling a graphic designer and saying, I want to know more about your job. Can I do an informational interview with you? And many people I know in all different types of jobs, not just graphic design, have been able to find their way into that industry by just doing those things. And then they do on-the-job training and on-the-job learning, and then they find their way as to what part of the job works for them, part of the job they love, and then that is their education. And then they go from there, and then you look back and 20 years from then, you're like, okay, I'm a graphic designer.
You remind me of a story of somebody that I knew who became an animator for Lucas Studios. And what he did was, he was always fascinated by drawing. And he would try and figure out how to do the really difficult drawing aspects. And you don't get a job at Lucas without taking a drawing test. So they gave him this test, and they said he had gone through the test faster than anybody they've ever seen. And he did it beautifully. He had never gone to school. He trained himself. So even if you don't go to school, if you've got the information they're looking for and you can demonstrate it, I think you might find doors open for you. So
And
that's,
have a passion. Yeah, I like that. And be willing
yeah,
to say, you know, I don't know if you don't know something. And also
yeah.
just be open and be willing to take a risk.
Oh, people love that when that you'll be able to take a risk. Yeah.
I was looking at this next question because I think that might be part of what we're talking about. It says relationships with your clients seem to be one of the most important parts of your job. How have you learned to work with clients who are picky or want you to do something that's impossible? I was thinking in terms of the relationship part. I know a lot of the business that Carmen gets is through relationships. And I think that also would help her in terms of if she has a client that's picky or if she has a client that's challenging. I think you have to have a really good base of a relationship with someone in business if and when those things do happen, because when they do, you can be candid with someone and say, you know, we've given you 10 different logos and you haven't liked any of them. We're having, you know, you got to pick one. Or, you know, this website makes more sense than the one you're showing us and we're the experts. You can't really say
Right.
those types of things unless you actually have some kind of a relationship with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things that she talked about was having empathy and being a keen observer and being super curious. So, on that note, I want to launch a poll and get your opinions. And Carmen, we see you're back. We're just going to finish this and then we'll return to the discussion. Thank you. So sorry you had troubles.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's see. Do you consider yourself, what does empathetic mean again?
It's that you can feel what other people are feeling.
Okay.
Right. And to be a keen observer is somebody who's very sharp in the way they see things. They see the finer details. And of course, the curious person always asks questions. Okay, looks like we've got all the people who want to vote. And a lot of people can feel what others are feeling.
100%.
A lot of people, yeah, love to look at problems and things from all sides. That's fantastic. And a fair number of people are fairly curious. All right.
Carmen, when we lost you for a minute there, we were talking about, we answered the question about how many years does it take to get a graphic design degree? I was talking about applying to college and saying you can have a 4-year degree to be a graphic designer, but nowadays you don't have to even go to school if to get work or to become a designer or a graphic designer or to start your career in the industry, because you can
Totally.
start by having an internship or learning on the job or in any number of ways. So that's what we were talking about.
Definitely. I think the key is that you have to know the tools of the trade now. You have to be technically savvy because, you know, there's very few artists nowadays that are commercial artists that don't use the computer. There's a handful of people out there that do traditional illustration or murals or something, but you know, you just have to know the tools, and that takes time to get good at them. But if you're a person that likes learning new things and likes the creative process and you know loves problem solving, it's a great and rewarding career.
That leads me to my next question. So one of your clients had said about you, she takes the time to learn about the client and their goals and develops concepts apropos to their needs. This sounds like you are great at talking with your clients. How do you get that information when they aren't clear?
You know, you just kind of have to keep asking in different ways to get to the answers. And, you know, a lot of times what happens is I don't even realize that I don't have all the information until I start sort of the creative process. And then I'm like, gosh, I don't know. They didn't really answer this, and I'm not sure which direction to go. And so a lot of times I'll follow up with an email and just ask for clarification. Or like if they said something and it's not sitting quite right with me, like, gosh, I wish they would explore this other direction. I just send an email that says, hey, I have this idea and I know it's not the way you're thinking right now, but I would like to explore this. How do you feel about that? And just, I think really it's important to be a diplomat and not, try to think of it as a collaboration. And you have to do that anyway when you're working with other designers and project managers, because there's always negotiating involved where you can't have everything your own way. You have to give and take and find solutions that work for everybody.
So here's a question for you. Tell us about a time when you were when you completely surprised a client and that they loved it.
Gosh, I'd have to look back at my portfolio to let me think.
You want to think about that one, and I can ask the next one?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
move on.
Why would you recommend this career to someone?
I think the thing that I like the most about it, one of the things I like is that every project is so different, and so many people do the same thing over and over again, I feel like, in their career. But design is such a creative job, and everybody's business is so different. And it's just this exploratory process that's fun. And you get to meet a lot of interesting people, and it's just, and there's so many different directions you can go, and expertise that you can develop. And one of the things that I wasn't good at for a long time, or hadn't had experience with, was video. And video is so cool because you're combining, well, first of all, it's really about storytelling. You want to tell a story of something, and you can use visuals and music and voiceovers and interviews, and you can combine all these things that it would take, forever if you only had the tool of writing, or if you only had the visual tool. But you can combine them all together into a really cool piece that really, in 1 minute, gives someone a really good idea of who you are and what you do. So, and I have examples of that if you want to see them.
Cool. Well, I'll move on to this one, and then maybe we can look at an example after that.
Okay.
So let's see. Here's a question. How did you know you're ready to shift from being an employee to starting your own business?
Well, for me, the point that I felt ready was when I got pregnant. So for me, I wanted to be able to still work, and but wanted to also raise my kids. So for me, that was the point that I decided. But I had already gotten to the point where I felt like I am experienced enough that I can go out and do it. And I've made lots of connections through the work that I'd already been doing. So I felt like I was ready to do that. The one mistake that I did make, though, was there was about 4 or 5 years where I wasn't keeping up on technology. And so then I had to work really hard to get back to be on the playing field where I was really efficient in all the tools, because that was at a time where there was a big shift in technology, and all these new tools came out and updates for all these tools. And so I sort of missed the boat because I wasn't in an office where people were like, oh, you could check out this new program, and hey, look what I can do with this tool. And so I really realized that I had to be on top of it myself. that I couldn't, you just have to keep up.
That was one of the questions I had. What would be something that you would regret? So that's one of the questions. And I think we actually kind of answered this, but for somebody wanting to start in this business, what would you recommend? And I think we touched on, starting as an intern or learning to the tech end of things, or doing an informational interview with someone in the business, or
Right.
taking some classes in graphic design. Or starting, just at the bottom end of a company and learning your way up in that company and then venturing out on your own. So let me move on to another question, if I may. So let's see.
Being aware of time, Janet, do you want to skip to question 30?
Yeah, let's do that. I was just going to do that. Have you ever had a colleague or have you hired someone with developmental disabilities?
I haven't hired anyone because, actually, I take that back. I haven't hired anyone to be my employee, but I have worked with a lot of people with disabilities. And the one that pops to my mind first is a photographer that I've worked with a lot who is deaf. And he was the coolest guy, and so incredibly creative. And I think actually his disability was an advantage in a lot of ways, because I feel like when you have maybe a disability, or one of your senses or something is not typical, you make up for it somewhere else. And I see that a lot in people that I've worked with disabilities. So he was just he had these just incredible ideas in photography and could do things that were different than anyone else that I've ever worked with. I also have worked with people that have the disability of being didn't have the use of their legs, and different kinds of disabilities. But he was so great because I feel like he learned how to be super focused and be so detail oriented, where other people were jumping up all the time and going off to get water or whatever. He just was so incredibly focused. And I think disabilities can work for you in a lot of ways in a creative business, because I feel like you really pour yourself into something you're passionate about.
Thank you. And have you seen a growth in the demand for the use and integration of inclusive and universal design that makes it easier for people with different abilities to see and interact with your projects?
Sorry, that was so long.
Are we out of time?
The question took up an hour.
Yeah, wait, hold on one second. I have to turn that off. So basically, have you seen a growth in the demand for design that makes it easier for people with disabilities to take on projects and to become involved in the business you're in?
I have seen that, and I think the world is getting better at developing tools that work for everyone. And one of the things that I've studied more recently, because it wasn't when I was in school, they didn't have this, but there's now courses in user-centered design. And I feel like designers now need to really have that approach of what will work for everyone. How do you design it so that that it works for someone who can't hear, or whatever the disability is. And I just read an exceptional book, and I think I have it on my shelf right around the corner, that is all about user-centered design, and it talks all about that. And it's just so important for designers to approach projects with thinking about, how do you make it work for the user? What will they respond to? What will frustrate them? And what will what will make them give up on the tool that you've given them to use, say an app.
A lot of
So
sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So all inclusive, user friendly. So, because if I go to a website, like many people probably, I get really frustrated really quickly if I can't navigate it. And so that would be definitely something that would help me and help probably a lot
yeah,
of people. So thinking in terms of everyone user friendly.
right.
Um,
And some of those things now that have been developed to accommodate is the little help box in the chat lines, because when you have those, you're telling people, hey, we care that this is hard for you and it's not working.
yeah.
We want to accommodate you. So I feel like those kinds of things are getting are part of the design process now, where they used to not be.
I just noticed that today. In fact, I was having trouble navigating some website earlier today. And instead of having to fill out that little form for the email, you have to pick the right subject or they won't let you go forward.
Right.
This was this little box that said, well, you want us to call you? And I was like, that's not going to work. I clicked on it. My phone rang. They called me and
Yeah.
it was the customer service. And I was like, I have a question. I can't figure this out. And they're like, oh, we can help you. So I was like,
See,
that's
this is an example where a graphic designer designed it, but somebody who is in user experience thinks about those things and says, hey, I don't want it to just look cool and, you know, be a functional form. I want to make it so their experience is positive and then they'll come back.
yeah. Yeah, I was really impressed with it. I had never seen that. Like, click here and we'll call you right now. That
Right.
was, I was skeptical. So thank you. All right, so we I know we're out of time, but I wanted to ask. Can I ask one more question, Wendy? You're muted still, I think.
Sorry. After
Wrap up. Okay, so we can wrap up. Okay.
Well, no. I was going to say you could definitely ask your question. And then we have one more question from a participant. One of
Okay.
the program managers has a question, and then we'll wrap up. We're going to go a little long, but that's okay. Yeah.
Instead of because we ran out of time for Carmen to show her work, anyone who wants to see it can go to carbonedesign.net because a lot
Yes.
of the stuff on there looked really neat. I hadn't even seen some of the work that you've done, so that was neat to look at. Okay, so my last question is, what are you looking forward to in your career moving forward?
Oh, well, so the class that I got asked to teach, I just got asked to teach at a small university in my town, and they want me to teach a class called information visualization. And that mouthful really means, how do you present data that's complex in a visual way that is easy for people to understand? And that's something I do a lot of, but I've never broke it down and thought about how to teach it. So my next, well, I'm working on learning 3D drawing, 3D for like house plans and things like that, just because I think it'd be a cool skill to add. I'm working on learning how to teach, which is a new thing for me, but I'm kind of excited about it. So those are the things I'm looking forward to.
That sounds like a great way to end and a great direction that your career is headed in. So thank you.
So one last question. Eli, did you want to ask your question?
Thank you, Wendy. First, really quick, Carmen, thank you so much for giving us a better understanding of what a graphic designer is. I now have a really good idea. Thank you so much for that. I have a quick question. I support an individual who is currently doing an internship, and he does what I believe is considered 3D modeling. Some of the CAD softwares that he uses is it's SolidWorks, and he's also used Blender.
Okay.
The difficulty behind that is so the coaches are not really informed on how to and you know too much of the software. And I've overheard you kind of getting started a little bit on your 3D modeling. I think you use the software Adobe Sketch or maybe a different one. But what would, and I heard that you mentioned that one of the key important things about graphic designers and keeping up with technology and the new softwares. What would you suggest for somebody who maybe wants to learn these CAD programs on developing that skill?
Well, you know, I can't speak to exactly which programs are necessarily the very best ones. I know that SketchUp, so there's Sketch, and that's used for, that's one company, and they do more interface design tools for webs and app, those sorts of things. Then there's another one called SketchUp. SketchUp is the 3D modeling tool that I'm learning right now. And that one is more for interior designers. And I have a daughter who's studying interior design, and she was really intimidated to use it. So that's why, partly why I'm learning it, is because it's like, well, that's cool. I mean, I don't use 3D software, so I thought it'd be really cool to use. So, you know, what I would say is, you know, CAD, so it's very similar to CAD. SketchUp is very similar to CAD. In fact, in the colleges around here, they are teaching that instead of CAD now. So, and the tools seem to be more simple than CAD. But, you know, one thing that's really helpful is, you know, whenever I get stuck, I go to YouTube, because you can just simply put in, how do I do this 3D shape and make an extrusion from it? And if you just put in a few keywords, there's short videos on how to do all these things, just step by step. So it can be really frustrating. Software can be so frustrating to learn. But I think there's so many great resources out there now online. And, you know, having a mentor, trying to find somebody who, when you get stuck, you can text or call and say, hey, I've been trying to figure this out and I can't do it. So that, you know, somebody helps you get through those roadblocks as they come up.
And Carmen, she just volunteered to be the mentor for all of you on the call.
Indeed.
She's so sweet and nice. She probably would say yes, but she's very busy too. She's got 3 kids in college, and she's got a lot going on. So anyway, she would, of course. But yeah, I'm sure we can all find someone to be able to help. I like the YouTube idea too. So thank you, Carmen.
That's great. Yes, Carmen, thank you so much for taking the time and weathering the difficulties of the internet.
Yes, I'm so sorry about that.
Well, we're so happy you got back to us, because we know so much of this can be out of our hands. And we're so glad for you to take your time and talk to our group about what you do for a living and to share your website. It's just wonderful. So thank you very much. Does everybody want to say goodbye? Because I'm going to stop the recording now. So we want to say goodbye.
And good to see you, and thank you so much for your
Good luck
time.
to all of you.
Yeah.
And I hope you find the job that makes you so happy, and that you can be passionate about.
Thank you again. Really,
Yeah.
it was great.
We've got some chats coming in that say thank you as well.
Oh,
Okay.
no. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.